Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the second regular meeting of the Board of Selectmen. Please rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mark, can you the white button? Thank you. If we could remain standing. We'd like to observe a moment of silence this morning to honor a gentleman who served the town so well, who passed away over the weekend on Sunday, and that is Robert Barnum Jr. Mr. Barnum was the founding partner of the Greenwich law firm Ivy Barnum and O'Mara. He passed on Sunday, October 23rd, 4 days shy of his 95th birthday. Mr. Barnum was a committed volunteer who dedicated his time serving the town of Greenwich. He served on the representative town meeting for a quarter century, including 15 years as moderator pro tem. He served as the chairman of 3 separate Town of Greenwich charter revision commissions in the 1970s and 80s, and was responsible for the several charter changes, including making the office of the first selectman a full-time position. He also served the Greenwich community on the Board of Health, the Greenwich Flood and Erosion Control Board, the Greenwich Land Trust, and the Greenwich Council of Girl Scouts. He also was a past Commodore of the Riverside Yacht Club. At this time, we observe a moment of silence in memory of Robert Barnum Jr. Thank you. Item number 2 on our agenda today is the approval of minutes from the meeting that was held on October 13th. Are there any changes or corrections to those meeting minutes? If there are not any changes, is there a motion to approve the minutes as presented?
So moved.
Seconded.
Without objection, 3-0-0. Item number 3, First Selectman updates. On October 19th, Saks Fifth Avenue expanded its commercial footprint in town with the opening of its 122 shoe, or 10022 shoe, a shoe salon located in the former Greenwich Time building on 20 East Elm Street. It's the first shoes-only store for the chain. Saks is also planning to open a high-end fine jewelry store called The Vault next spring across the street from its Greenwich Avenue store. They did have a large turnout. They were promoting the United Way of Greenwich, or the Greenwich United Way, as it's referred. And one of the reasons to accentuate this is that this is a commitment by a internationally recognized retailer to make a significant capital investment in the town of Greenwich. And I believe the head of the organization lives in our town, but we just want to acknowledge and thank them for their support of Greenwich by investing in the retail industry. On October 20th, there was the 26th Annual United Nations Day celebration at the Julian Curtis School, and I know Selectmen Toner and Marzullo attended. Perhaps each of you want to talk about it. I was at the Regional Council of Government meeting, unable to attend, but it's always a wonderful celebration of that community, and maybe each of you want to just make a comment, what you felt about it?
I found that last year when I went that it was a very, very pleasant experience, so I look forward to it this year. I think there were 62 flags, an amazing diversity of students in that school, and they work well together, they play together, they live together, and it's a very good example of what the United Nations is all about. One thing that was missing this year was the presence of Ambassador Joseph Reed, and he was remembered.
Great, thank you. Drew?
No, well said. I think it's one of my, I mean, all three of us actually. We look forward to the event every year. It's one of my favorites actually, and it was just it's a great way for all of us to come together. I forgot her name. Excuse me. The woman who, one of the parents, her speech I think was wonderful.
Yes,
Just
it
talking
was.
about diversity and you know, in light of what's going on the national level, I think it was just a nice way for us to come together with 62 countries being represented. It was a beautiful ceremony.
Was she Palestinian?
Yeah, I don't.
What, I'm sorry?
Syrian. I think she was Syrian. Yeah. Amazing.
Great, thank you both. On October 24th, I had a meeting with Pat O'Neill and Betsy Unger from the Outdoor Sculpture Committee under the aegis of the Greenwich Arts Council. And both Miss O'Neill and Miss Unger are the leading advocates and stewards for maintaining the collection of sculptures throughout the town. They are planning to arrange for the cleaning and waxing of several pieces, including the Butterfield horses and the Girl Standing in Nature sculpture in Bruce Park. The Greenwich Library is also undertaking similar work for the sculptures located there. For those who are perhaps not familiar, these sculptures were given to the town as gifts, and several of them have appraised value in excess of over $500,000, I believe, if I recall from the discussion. So one of the things we're looking to do is ensure that going forward, there is recognition to provide money in our annual maintenance budget under the aegis of the Department of Parks, since they're in the parks in those cases, to see to it that they get the general care and maintenance. Also, looking ahead prospectively, when people do give something of significance like this, we're going to encourage that some type of endowment be provided so that they can be cared for. But these two women have been doing this for close to 20 years. I think they're preparing to transition on. There's actually a pamphlet that outlines all of the sculptures in the town, both public and those held under the aegis of the library, the Bruce Museum, I believe at some of the schools. So I do want to thank them for their effort. On Wednesday, that would be yesterday, I had a meeting with John Eddy from RTM District 8, Chairman of the Appointments Committee, Stuart Ryder, Vice Chairman of the Appointments Committee of the RTM and District 11 member, and Carolyn Stevens, who is the chairwoman of the Selectmen's Nomination Advisory Committee. We are continuing to work on what will become a proposed charter change to the appointment process. Among the changes will be staggering the terms of boards so that they would be spread out. We'd spread out the vetting and appointment process for both the Board of Selectmen and the RTM. We anticipate that the final recommended changes will come to the Selectmen in January, with the RTM taking action in March. So simply stated is, right now, all of the boards we nominate for members' term expire March 31st, and it creates a tremendous workload for everybody in terms of scheduling and acting and passing. So we're looking to break them up into some March, some June, some September, and measure out the appointment process. To that end, I'll update my colleagues in item 6, but when we look at next year, we are going to aim to act on all one group at the same time. I think
Makes a lot of sense.
that way we don't give them one P&Z this month and then one in May. They could see it all together. So we came up with a grouping that put all the land use together and all the human services together so that we're seeing the same people. We don't have stragglers. And we'll talk a little bit more about it in appointments and nominations. Yesterday, I had the pleasure of filling in for a local talk show program, the Lisa Wexler Show, which is, I believe, a paid program on GCH from 4 to 6. And joining me was Barbara Hines. But our special guest was Greenwich Times senior reporter Ken Borsak, who was a great sport in joining us because he's so worldly. He was able to talk to us about the media, what drew him into journalism, and also about latest issue about media bias and how it's perceived, but also sports. He's quite a sports fanatic, and so I just want to thank you, Ken, because I think you got me through it with Barbara. I wouldn't have been able to do it on my own. So thank you. We were joking that the late Dave Tice said that it was the Ken and Barbie show when they were sitting here in the audience reporting.
I did.
And finally, the Board of Selectmen receives on regular occasion comments from the public. Sometimes great, sometimes not so great, or critiques. I just wanted to point out that we received notice from RTM member District 3, Don Fortunato, complimenting the Greenwich Police Department on the drug bust that yielded 390 bags of heroin. This was a major arrest involving the apprehension of a 21-year-old who resided at Armstrong Court, who had 390 bags of heroin. And I believe in reading the story by Robert Marchand from the Greenwich Time that some of those were containing the very, very lethal substance fentanyl. So kudos to the Greenwich Police Department for their heroic efforts. They also apprehended another gentleman from the Bronx on Delvin Avenue, and he was possessing 180 bags of heroin, and therefore preventing it getting in the hands of people here in town. So I thank you to Ms. Fortunato for her shout out to the Greenwich Police Department. We too, all of us, appreciate that effort. We received a quick note from Richard Kozinski from Koskov. He says, quick shout out and thanks to the town's road maintenance division and the online report a problem system. Within days of reporting a problem on one of our roads, the team fixed it. I was really impressed and appreciated. As a citizen, I see a system that works. Thank you. So that's great. Yesterday, we received this note in from Dolores Beto from Byram. She writes, Dear Mr. Tessie, I would like to thank the Town of Greenwich Commission on Aging for providing senior citizens the valuable information regarding Medicare Part D. I also would like to congratulate Lori Contadino, Director of Commission on Aging, her staff member Chicky Croyce, and all the volunteers for their hard work and a job well done. We are very fortunate to live in our great town of Greenwich and to be able to take advantage of the many programs and services offered. Again, thank you and all the other devoted employees of the town of Greenwich. So again, nice to hear feedback on all forms. That concludes updates. We do know tomorrow, we reported last meeting, but just a reminder, we are having a program here in the Cone Room. It is sponsored by the First Selectmen's Diversity Advisory Committee. It's being run by the Anti-Defamation League's World of Different Institute, and it will convene members of town staff and outside organizations discussing understanding and diversity in the world today. So we look forward to that program.
The time?
9:30.
9:30.
9:30 to 1. Okay, that concludes.
Can I mention something?
Oh, sure. By all means.
Last Saturday, I stopped by Hemlock and Oak, where the neighbors the people in the neighborhood were cleaning out a vernal pool. They put 2 large dumpsters together of old leaves that had been dumped on this property and invasive plants. And they did a very good job. I was impressed. It's an example of how the people of Greenwich work together to keep the town as nice as it is. Come the spring, they're going to plant bushes there to prevent contractors from blowing leaves in there in the future. So again, the neighbors deserve kudos and a job well done. One of the newspapers in town reported on
Great. Well, thank you for going, John.
We're getting to it.
The folks over there work very hard to protect their neighborhood in relationship to that 345 West Putnam development. a lot of resources invested already in the hundreds of thousands of dollars to protect the impact. So that was a wonderful.
Yeah, this vernal pool butts where that property comes in. So, again, neighbors working together.
Great, wonderful. Okay, item 4, old business. I don't believe we have any old business. Item 5, new business. We have with us today Richard Fulton, who is representing the Old Greenwich Merchants Association and the owner and sole proprietor of Chili Bear in Old Greenwich, well known to all the citizens here in the town. And if you go in, Rich has always got a big smile on his face and full of a lot of cheers. So makes sense that he's heading up the Old Greenwich Merchants Association's annual First Light Festival, which will be held on Saturday, December 3rd, on Sound Beach Avenue from 5 to 8. This is something that comes before our board every year solely for the purpose of the road closure in coordination with GPD. So we are reviewing the annual First Light Festival request, which, again, December 3rd from 5 to 8. They've been already given permission from the Greenwich Police Department Traffic Division as well as the Department of Parks and Recreation. They will be featuring a horse-drawn carriage, rides, carolers, in-store magic shows, face paintings, and plenty of holiday cheer. This year they're promoting Operation Santa 2. It's a local charity that provides students in grades 3 through 5 at PS 55 in the Bronx with a warm winter gear and holiday gift. These grades represent over 360 children, and they've given us, which we can give to you, Ken, and other media, the links where you can go to see that. So that was the written request, but certainly want to invite Rich to come forward and enlighten us more about
Yeah, for sure. Well, I thank you for hearing from us this morning. Just wanted to point out we did not have our annual block party this year, just with bridge construction going on, and you know, their schedule not being very certain. So we purposely did not have that. So bless you. So we're expecting an overflow crowd as always. So we're excited to have it, and the local charity, it's an Old Greenwich school mother and a Brunswick school mother that started this charity last year, and they were overwhelmed with donations. So we're anticipating fulfilling the needs at PS 55, and then we're going to identify some local schools that certainly during the holidays could use some holiday-oriented school supplies, things like that. So it's
Great.
it's nice to keep a local. We always try to identify a good local charity rather than going bigger. We kind of go the other direction. So
It's wonderful.
So we're excited. Yeah,
Do a great job.
appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you very much. So essentially, this is a no-brainer. It's something that we've supported previously, so we just need a simple motion to affirm approval for the proposed road closure on that date, December 3rd.
So moved. Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye. Thanks, Rich.
Congratulations, Rich.
Thank you
Thanks
very
again
much.
for
Thank
what
you
you
again.
do for
Thanks,
the
Rich.
merchants, and I know you'll be so happy when the DOT pulls out all their.
Yeah. Well, we've
Yeah.
side note, we've had a face-to-face with Rita from parking and have talked about the immediate impact of what's going on. And I've spoken to traffic a few times, but hopefully, if and when they finish construction, there's some good new ideas.
Don't say if and when. Don't say if.
Well,
Richard.
It's at a standstill right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's more parking though that's going to be created, which
Yeah,
is
that'll
great.
be great once it's done, but I know there's.
The big part is that bridge going into the village there. I mean, I haven't looked at the DOT website to see where they're projecting it out.
Delayed, and it's funny that they said it was a 3 to 4 year project, and then I read something that had to have been in this print. They were talking about July of next year.
Dog
That's
ears.
what I heard,
It's like
too.
it's not.
Yeah, it's July of 2020, but they're at a standstill right now, which is 3 or 4 months with no work right now. I think they're arguing over a transformer that's right behind me. Who's going to shore it up and how they're going to regrade around it kind of thing.
Oh, take
But it's great. I mean, I remember thinking that when they did the Arch Street Bridge that it was going to be awful, and that was ahead of schedule, and it was fantastic.
Great.
So it'll be well worth it when it's complete. Easy not to complain when there's no construction, but then when they are at it, it's pretty bad.
Yeah, just looking at their website here, it says for the week of October 23rd to the 29th, northbound platform extension pedestrian walkways being removed permanently this Saturday night, October 22nd. New parking configuration, upper parking lot. And of course, they got asterisks with says notices. And then it goes down to daytime operations, October 23rd through the 29th. Construction crews will be adjusting the new and existing platform height along the northbound New Haven side. Minor hand paving in the upper parking lot areas adjacent to the pedestrian platform and utility equipment areas. Periodic alternating traffic patterns may occur at either location between the hours of 9 a.m. and 3 p.m. Traffic control devices and traffic personnel will be stationed, and traffic control measures will be implemented as needed. And they've got several visuals, but it would be interesting to see how this reconciles with what. Yeah.
I've called them out on it a couple times. So there's a local office at the MTA. I don't know if it's an employee or a PR firm, but you can call them and look at what the website says versus what's actually occurring, and it's hugely different.
Yeah, the phone number for those who may be interested or listening is 203-637-0036, and that's the Department of Transportation Field Office at 143 Sound Beach Avenue. So thanks, yeah, for bringing that up, because I think there's another meeting scheduled. There was one over the summer I attended.
Yeah,
at
the OGA, I think, have one. They've got another one coming up soon.
And I don't recall the gentleman's name off the top of my head who was there from DOT, but.
That's the big delay is dealing with that. Who's going to be responsible for reinforcing that transformer? So there literally has not been any substantial work in months.
Yeah, I saw that completion date too of.
Did you see that where all of a sudden it said 2017?
Yeah.
It's like they only got a quarter of that bridge done. So too much misprint, but.
Here it says again, okay, the notice to proceed was issued on August 13th, 2014 to Manafort at a cost of $14,875,329 and is scheduled for completion in July of 2017. Project management and inspection was being performed by Gannett Fleming. They began on May 4th of 2015. Utility relocation work in the parking lot has been completed. Moving utilities under the Sound Beach Avenue Bridge will continue and should be completed in June of 15. So something we could follow up on. Were you at that meeting in Old Greenwich at the Civic? Yeah.
Yeah, I was. And, I don't know how close they're going to come to those projections.
Yeah, I think that the items in their timeline are correct, but they never adjust their dates. So they've had points where they said phase 1 is complete and phase 1 is half done.
Well, some of them we could follow up on too, but coordinating with DPW, because they should be communicating from the DOT to the
Yeah.
Department of Public Works Engineering.
Well, yeah, a lack of communication was one of the big complaints at that meeting.
Yeah. Yeah, if you want to rely on a website, just have it be accurate.
Yep.
If they're not going to keep it current, then they need to communicate a better way.
Yeah, because that's where we're getting our information, it seems.
Yeah, it was frustrating to end it. It was frustrating because we purposely did not have our summer block party anticipating a major phase of that project going on, and it turned out there was nothing going on that
Yeah,
weekend.
that's a shame.
Yeah.
Well, again, thank you for your,
Yes, thank
your
you.
patience.
Appreciate it.
The second item under new business is a review of a draft of the American Disabilities Act's policy and procedures. And this is an item that I had brought to the town legal department's attention because we do have a advisory committee on people with disabilities in Greenwich. And in looking at our website, speaking of updates, we recognize that there was not a clearly delineated policy for people who may have issues to report. Under the law, the community needs to have a coordinator, someone they can reach out to levy a complaint or inquiry. Presently, that's been under the aegis of the Department of Public Works since they handle infrastructure, but some discussion has ensued about whether it should be more appropriately organized and directed to the Department of Social Services. So what we have in our file, we'll just quickly read, and it's from Assistant Town Attorney Amina Ahmad. And she writes, I completed my review of the ADA policies and procedures from neighboring municipalities that you had sent. I have also reviewed the Department of Justice's suggested ADA policy for local governments together with associated procedures and guidelines. Attaches a draft policy for your review. As a preliminary matter, the town will need to designate an ADA compliance officer. That's the title. Presently, I believe it is Commissioner Siebert. The Department of Justice offers the following guidelines when selecting a compliance officer and suggests that it be someone with the following qualifications: familiarity with the local government structure, activities, employees, knowledge of the ADA and other laws addressing the rights of people with disabilities, such as Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act, 29 of the USC's Code 794. Experience with people with a broad range of disabilities, knowledge of various alternate formats and alternative technologies that enable people with disabilities to communicate, participate, and perform tasks, ability to work cooperatively with the local government and people with disabilities, familiarity with any local disability advocacy groups or other disability groups, skills and training in negotiation and mediation, organization, and analytical skills. Once an ADA policy is formally adopted by the Board of Selectmen on behalf of the town, the Department of Justice requires that it be published. This can be done by posting it on the town website. However, the website will have to be accessible to persons with various disabilities. The Department of Justice also recommends the adoption of a grievance procedure. A draft procedure is attached for your review. Any grievance procedure adopted by the town also requires the designation of an ADA compliance officer and another town official or agency to hear and decide any appeals. Once the town adopts an ADA policy in accordance with the Department of Justice's guidelines, the town will need to make an effort to comply with accessibility of all public buildings, parks, and recreational facilities, curb ramps, and pedestrian crossings, emergency shelters, emergency communication services, implement website design practices that eliminate online barriers to people with disabilities, and make various other accommodations for persons with disabilities. The attached draft policy and grievance procedure are for purposes of discussion and can be modified following input from any town departments and agencies that you believe should be involved in the process. I'm available to discuss this with you in further detail at your convenience. It was copied to the Commissioner of Social Services, Dr. Alan Barry, the Director of Information Technology, Tom Klein, Lolly Ross, who is the chairwoman of the First Selectmen's Advisory Committee for People with Disabilities, Amy Siebert, Commissioner of Public Works, and our town attorney, Wayne Fox. And I will not read through the grievance or the procedure, but it's very much consistent with what I had presented to Ms. Ahmad from Westport, Stamford, and I believe Norwalk. But you can go on their websites and you can find them. So something to percolate, review and think about. If you have any comments, certainly formulate them. And when Ahmad is here at our next meeting, Barb, that's on November 10th, we can move to adopt it. Because essentially it's just making sure that when people go to this website and they put in disability, that they have something specific to follow, which right now it does not appear they do. Are there any questions or comments, ideas?
No.
Okay, so that will go under old business for our next meeting. And again, we should, Barb, make sure that we solicit those individuals that are copied, if they have any comments, to get them to us by, November 7th. 7th sounds good. Okay, appointments and nominations. Had a meeting yesterday with the group. So I just find the So looking at our current group of positions, we have one position open on the Inland Wetlands and Watercourses Agency, which we would like to get to the RTM for their December meeting, which means we would have to act at our next meeting on November 10th. So we need to make sure that we do that timely.
Is Paula going to set up appointments? or
That's, yeah,
interviews?
we're gonna, yes, we gotta talk to her about that, because that's important for you guys, your schedule.
Sure.
The second one, remember we had the whole discussion whether we had another position on the Nathaniel Witherell or not? They have said we do.
Larry sent
asked, yeah.
Larry, through Peter Crumbine, sent a resume for a lady, and I've asked Paula to set up interviews for her.
Yeah, the problem with what happened is she never sent her resume through the process, so she's going to. That was one of the discussion items.
She
that
has.
Yeah, okay, good. That was the discussion at the meeting yesterday. And then finally, the Historic District Commission, we were uncertain as to how many openings. I believe there's still one alternate position, so we're not as behind as we thought with filling those.
Right.
There are 3 items that'll be before the RTM in December we've already acted on. But there was a question as to the status of residency of one of the people.
Really?
She hasn't come to a meeting in a while, and she may have moved. The chair, Steve Bishop, has communicated this. So that would take care of this year's.
There's one opening there, isn't it?
Correct.
Yeah. There's a gentleman that's been on the list for a while, Kagan,
Martin.
and I went to Paula again and asked her that. She said you've already interviewed him, so I have to check back my records on that.
Yeah, I believe he previously served, I would check me on it, I believe he had previously served on wetlands, but we could verify that. But yeah, he would be a natural.
Did.
Did he serve on wetlands?
Yeah.
So looking ahead to next year, we figured if we follow this plan, if you think about, there's RTM in January, March, April. The terms expire all in March right now. So if we can do for January, which means a lot of interviews in November and December, harbor management, planning and zoning, historic district, because there'll be some new peoples or new terms coming up, inland wetlands. That would be the first wave. The second wave for March would be Commission on Aging, Social Services, Nathaniel Witherell. And then in April, we would endeavor to do the Board of Parks and Recreation, Alarms Appeals Board, and Ethics. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That's 10.
Housing.
And the reason why we're not there, health is not coming up because there's no, so that would be 11. 12, conservation is solely an appointment of the Office of the First Selectman, so I can do it anytime. That's 12. And there's another, zoning board of appeals would be 13. There's no people's term coming up. And I believe there are a total of 14, so I'm missing one, unless I miscounted. 1, 2, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. That's 14, yeah. Ethics, alarms appeals, parks and rec. That's 3 in April. Nathaniel Witherell, social services, Commission on Aging. It's 3 plus if we had health, so that's 4. Conservation, wetlands, CBA, planning and zoning. 6. So that's still 13. Well, did you say housing? That's it. Yeah,
Housing, because we just have that
That's the
outstanding,
point,
yeah.
that's the 14th. You got it,
14th.
thank you.
All right,
So we could do that that we can do anytime. But the ones
can
we
do
want to
anytime.
meet the deadline, it's just going to make it easier so that if you think about it, by April, we were done. And we don't have to be,
And I think it would allow us to spend maybe more time with people, and we're not rushing, you know what I mean? I like this idea.
so I'll write this up so that
I
we
like
know
this
it,
idea.
and then give it to Paul, so.
Yeah.
There's one thing, the Harbor Management Commission, there's only one opening in 2017.
Good.
Yes. At the meeting the other night last week, it was last week, yes, it was last week, the comment was passed from the audience that the Harbor Management Commission is comprised of all Easterners, there's no Westerners in there. So if anybody would like to be on that commission, they should submit their resume and appointments nomination form to the SNAC committee, Selectmen's Nomination Committee.
So looking at that, we have 1, 2, regulars and 1 alternate. This is from the RTM's appointments committee.
For harbor manager?
Yes, so you have 1 regular, 2 regular that are up, and then
I don't think Bruce is up.
according to this, he is.
He's up this quickly.
Well, this has, am I not reading this right? It says 2017. Unless
It doesn't agree with that.
Carolyn has reconciled this, but we'll deal with that. But I think we got a plan. We're aboard with the plan to deal with the appointments and nominations, so that's a good thing. That concludes appointments and nominations for today. The next item is executive session. In our executive session today, we have several matters to discuss that are referred to as pending litigation. Notably, what we spend a good deal of time on are property assessment tax appeals, which there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5. So that's really what we're going to be discussing. It's Ken, if you'd like to wait around to hear what we do after with them.
Well, no. Well, there's another one. That could be-
But is that,
We're voting on that. We have to, if we're going into a,
is it for information though?
no, they're asking us to enter into a lawsuit. That requires our vote.
Okay, so then we may have another matter pertaining to the Board of Education to vote on as well.
Well,
So,
thank you all.
Would you make a motion to go into executive session?
I do. Make a motion.
Second.
It's been seconded. All in favor?
Aye.